job is not my life. My family is my life, my husband, my children, my friends. So when I started to go out and seek employees, it was very important to me that they felt that they had this job that they could design around their lives. And one of the first questions we ask after a new hire is, it's actually during the hiring process, is what is your dream job, right? Like, what are the dream hours? What's your dream wage? What's the dream benefits? And that helps us create a scenario where somebody wants to stay, they're motivated to stay. And more importantly, they have access to the tools and to the things that motivate them so they excel.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is the owner of Good Sense Bookkeeping, Inc., which provides professional bookkeeping services to artists, creative professionals, and small businesses. Justine Lackey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And when I saw that you serve creative people, I just thought, wow, so interesting. And artists, I'm always interested in hearing those kinds of stories. And so I'm excited to have you on the show today, as well as a few other things that I thought were pretty cool about your story. And so before we get too far into all of that, let's let our listeners know a little bit more about you. Justine, tell us about your career journey leading up to this point.
Sure. So it seems amazing, but I actually started doing bookkeeping almost 25 years ago. I was a young 20-something living in Brooklyn in Williamsburg, which is now world famous. But at the time, it was a really bad neighborhood. And a friend of mine, this was really at the rise of the internet. It was like 1995. It was sort of the first commercial ventures. And I always think of this period of time as the rise of the gig culture. Prior to that time, you didn't really hear about subcontractors or 1099 workers. And I had a friend who was a freelance graphic designer. I went in to help her out. I just had a natural talent for bookkeeping, and I was very poor at the time. But I got under the wings of a few accountants, and they really mentored me. But I was reading accounting books at Barnes & Noble on the floor that I couldn't afford. And so that person led to another person, which led to another person. And then I became the sort of the go-to bookkeeper for this major accounting firm for artists in the city. And one of my very close friends at the time became the associate photo editor of Spin magazine. So I got this very strong toehold early on with everybody involved in fashion production in New York. And it's a very small world, but fashion photographers, stylists, makeup artists, hair people, branding experts. And that's how it started. And it served me so well. And I got pregnant with my first daughter. And I was in the fashion district climbing a ladder in heels when I was 6 months pregnant, into a really bad loft. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm pregnant and I can't run around to all these studios. And that's when I started doing quote unquote virtual bookkeeping. But at the time, online banking was so new and people were afraid of it. So my version of virtual bookkeeping actually involved FedEx and messengers. And that's how I started working remotely. Fast forward, that goes on for many years. I have my second son. We leave the city. I come to the suburbs. He enters nursery school. And I said, okay, it's time to hang out a shingle. And that was 12 years ago. And that's when I hired my first employee. We now have a team of 6. That's just our bookkeeping team. And then we have a marketing, quote unquote, department. And that's 3 people as well. And so now that was just sort of how it all evolved. And some of those clients I still work with. One of them is a makeup artist, and I arrived at his studio like so pregnant you could bounce me down the street. And my daughter just turned 17 in December, so I've been working with him for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. And your client, so lucky to have you. You know, you can tell when you have clients for that long, it's a testament to the work that you do.
Absolutely. I mean, I have taught a lot over the years, small business classes to new entrepreneurs and to artists. One of the things I always say to them, that I pose a question. I said, what is your most valuable asset? And they'll say, my business equipment or my trademark or my domain name. And I tell people, no, your most valuable asset is your reputation, because it's really what sells you to other people, and it's what helps you retain your clients. So I think we've done a good job of that.
You've done a great job, and really, the way that you've seen your business grow is a testament to that as well. And it really is wise words for anyone in business, is that, that if you do all this work on the marketing side and the sales side and all that good stuff, and you don't take care of your customers, well, you're just really making it a lot more difficult for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, last year, for the first time, we did a customer survey. I've done a lot of marketing and stuff, but my marketing director did a customer survey, and we received what's called, it's an NPS score. It's the Net Promoter Score. It's sort of the benchmark of how your clients feel about you. And I'm super proud to say that Good Sense actually has a Net Promoter Score of 79. To put that in context, like Nordstrom, Apple, USAA, the companies that we really think of in terms of brand loyalty, their scores are around 75. So we're 4 points higher than them, which really satisfies my inner overachiever.
Wow. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about building a company a little bit that enabled you to have, or it was a result, this Net Promoter Score is a result, because you've built a company that is bringing on new clients, serving existing clients, growing. You've got lots of staff, so you're doing a lot of things right. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is your work environment. You have a unique work environment, and so I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. It is true. We have a lot of systems in place that have enabled us to grow. For new bookkeepers, I think it's really important to keep in mind, or new business owners, overnight success is a rarity, and it's very often not sustained. So while we have those systems, that was the product of a lot of trial and error and hardships and painful lessons. So that's important to keep in mind. I'm not addressing the second part of your question. Can you re-ask it? Well,
no, it's a good point, and often many people think, oh, gee, this is all just going to happen super fast. We talk a lot about systems and process on the show, and they take a lot of work, and at times they seem like they're not working, and you probably want to give up or not do it, but you persist at it, and so now you've ended up with systems that are helping you actually scale and grow and do all these good things. But they do take a lot of work, time, and energy.
It's so true. And I was listening to the episode with Payticker, Craig McPhee, and his partner.
Yes.
And he said something so amazing. He said, you could have the best system in the world or the best software in the world, but it's the people that bring the value to it. And that is so true. We have a lot of back-end systems here that support our clients and support our team. But I have spent a lot of money and time, sometimes deploying tech that just doesn't work. And sometimes keeping it simple is really, really the best way to go about things. You did mention that, we have a unique work environment here, and that's definitely true. I think one of sort of our internal logos and something we use for our clients it's what I call the atmosphere of excellence. And that's providing an excellent atmosphere for our team members, right? Because those are my frontline performers. I really have very strong feelings about taking care of your team. Again, like my clients, many of my team members have been with me for many, many years. but also creating an atmosphere of excellence for our clients, right? Money is so personal. It's like medicine, just taking care of them, cradling them. They all have times where they go through and business is really flush, and then they go through times where business is really hard and cash flow is hard. And one of the ways that you can cultivate your relationships with your clients is having empathy and being supportive of them during those periods. It is a unique environment.
So true. And around this, I get the sense that it's not just excellence for the business, but excellence for your customers, but also excellence for the staff. You have over 70% of your staff are moms, and you help them design their jobs around their lives. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was we have all different sorts of quips around good sense. In the mid-90s and early 2000s, especially when email really became a primary way of contact, all of a sudden we didn't really know how to deal with it, right? And so there was all this on-demand communication and sort of this ferociousness in the business environment that you had to be there all the time. And, really your job was your life. And my job is not my life. My family is my life, my husband, my children, my friends. So when I started to go out and seek employees, it was very important to me that they felt that they had this job that they could design around their lives. And one of the first questions we ask after a new hire it's actually during the hiring process, is what is your dream job, right? Like, what are the dream hours? What's your dream wage? What's the dream benefits? And that helps us create a scenario where somebody wants to stay, they're motivated to stay. And more importantly, they have access to the tools and to the things that motivate them so they excel. And especially, a lot of women are still the primary caregivers. That has switched over time, but it's still part of sort of the cultural norm. And the Good Sense office we have a physical office. We're located about 45 minutes north of New York City. So there's many moms here who left their careers midstream and they don't want to go to work full time. And they certainly don't want to commute all the way to New York City, even though we have a beautiful train ride right down the Hudson River from where we are. Commuting is not fun, So I'm the mother of 3 children myself. It was so important for me to create an environment where, you weren't going to get fired if your kid got sick, or you want to be home at 2:45 to get your kids on the, off the bus. So that's what we've done.
It's remarkable. It's one thing to know these things. It's another thing to actually have empathy for others, but it's also another thing to actually execute on that empathy and knowledge and actually create an environment and be generous around the way you run your business. And I'm sure that's what has that, that's a real probably key piece to making your customers happy, is make sure that your staff is happy.
Yeah. And, we're very transparent about that. When I am on a sales call, I let that prospect know that the majority of our team members are moms. Many of them work part-time. When they're assigned their bookkeeper, those hours will be explained to them. So client education is so important. If you educate your clients on how you operate and how they can be a great client, they're going to have a good experience. So we really try to communicate that. I mean, it's not, some bookkeepers have their hours in their signature. Most of the time it's just communicated during the onboarding process. And also too, even if their bookkeeper isn't available, say on Wednesdays, if they have something that's urgent or time sensitive, they know that they can reach out to our client services director or myself. So even if their bookkeeper is out, somebody is still available to help them.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the Marmy.
The Marmy, another one of the Good Sense quips. Yeah, that's the mom army. So I had mentioned it, I think, on social somewhere, and somebody reached out to me who I had worked in a artist studio with her 20 years ago. She had just had an infant son. She was an operations person who had bookkeeping background. And she said, I want to join your Marmy. So now she works for us. Yeah, I mean, it's just, the PTA for me, that's our Parent Teachers Association, has been a great resource. I've made a lot of good friends there. It's usually my first stop when I'm looking to fill a position. Usually moms are people who have some work experience under their belts. I mean, we do definitely want to attract, employees who are experienced and professional and no nonsense and have longevity. So that's how the Marmy came about, just because I was a working mother, and it's really important to find your people. And but not everybody here is a mom. We still have some super young team members. Interestingly enough, Justine High School, which is where I live in New York, has a wonderful entrepreneurial program, and they actually have a tax prep program where their seniors learn tax prep. And once I found this out, I was like, give me all the students. Mm-hmm. And so we've had 2 students come to us through Justine High School. The first one came in her senior year, worked for us straight through college. It was a paid internship. And then eventually, once they completed their first year, they were on point with the other par in terms of hourly rate with other bookkeepers. Then worked with us for their next 4 years of college. And so that student left the college with a college accounting degree, with 5 years of accounting experience at 24.
Wow.
And so now we've just had our second student also do the same exact thing. She just graduated in December. So not everybody is a mom, but it's definitely I would say it's like a female, there's a strong female vibe in the office for sure.
Yeah, it really does sound that way. And I think it's, what a remarkable service to the community when you are putting out a person into the workforce that has 5 years experience and a college degree. That's so rare. And in this day and age, people are going and getting educated, but they don't have the hands-on experience and knowledge. It takes something. There was an investment that you made in that person's life that cost you something. And yes, you got returns back, but I would say your investment was far greater. And many business owners choose not to go those routes where it's like, it's difficult to have students, we have to train them. What if they leave? All of these good things. What really comes up in this conversation for me is your generosity. You really, it's all over the place, which is great. However, how do you deal with, and maybe talk a little bit about that, making sure that you're not taken advantage of, or what's your take on that? Because many people be like, gee, I don't want to be taken advantage of, or I was taken advantage of. It's this mentality that can get in the way of people being their natural self as a generous person.
Oh, I think that that comes with age, right? So my boundaries were a lot more flexible when I was younger. And I will say for sure, there was times where I felt I was taken advantage of, or not felt I was. But I have very strong boundaries now, and I don't feel like that's an issue at all. I was lucky enough to be mentored by people who believed in me. And part of this is, I want us to have a really strong generation of lady leaders. And it's up to me to help cultivate those young women. Although I do agree with you, I think that not everybody is so generous with their time. I really enjoy it. And there's a social component for me also, where I think it's a personal value. Like it's important to me. In terms of boundaries and how you set them, that comes down to client education. I mean, the first one is time, right? Like I have worked for some really demanding and borderline abusive people in the past. And, I would get phone calls at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and combative and rude. And the first part of that is just the screening process. Like I just listen to my intuition. If I'm on the phone with somebody and they don't feel good to me, I'm just like, I'm just not a fit for you. So that's the first boundary that comes up. But after that, once the client is onboarding, I'm very specific about, we work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. These are our hours. All of our invoices are collected by credit card on the first of the month. It's non-negotiable. When I first started working, the bookkeeper, for some reason, which was me, was always the last person paid. And I was, we were a young family. We didn't really have that flexibility. So it really comes down to knowing what you'll accept and then not accepting what you won't.
I think that's key for anyone and any business owner really is you've talked about intuition, you've talked about, determining these factors and what is a go, what's a not go. you're the type of person, it sounds like you've documented that. You've said, this is what it is. And now you're communicating it. You're making sure you're holding the line on it. And I'm sure that, like you said, this didn't just come out one day and you had it all done and dusted. This is multiple years of iteration, making a mistake, not trusting your intuition, right? And then it's like you really get that trust your intuition muscle strong. But for those that haven't, it sounds like this really is a key step, is to actually know and then document what it is that you want, and also make sure you're communicating it to your clients and your team.
And you have to communicate it again and again, right? I think you have a young child, right? So your child just doesn't learn manners the first time around. It's say please, say please, say please, say please, say thank you, say thank you, say thank you. So not to liken the client education piece to parenting, but everybody is so overwhelmed by information. I mean, it's a deluge. And I think every person is having a hard time managing it. So yes, everything is documented. We have contracts that go out, but really that it's a repetition. So what our rules are and what our boundaries are, those are first seeded during the initial sales call. Typically, I have a second follow-up call after I review the QuickBooks file or whatever I'm looking at, and then they're seeded again during that follow-up call. Then they're put in the actual legal documents. And then during the onboarding call, which is a key component of our process here, they're reiterated again. And it's always with kindness and compassion, but also professionalism. So the rules are there.
Mm.
Yeah. So you can't just tell your clients once and say, well, I told you. And you should never do that anyway. You should say, oh, I did mention this, but here are the rules again, just in case you need a refresher.
Beautiful. And a great analogy. Sometimes I think people go, oh, we can't make it sound like it's parenting and, that sort of thing. And you know what? It is a lot like parenting,
It's education.
It's education.
Absolutely. It's education.
Yeah. And it's not like you're doing it in a negative sense. It's to serve them. When they follow your rules, life gets a lot better for them.
An educated client is a happy client.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
100%. And I will actually say to our new bookkeepers and our current bookkeepers, or, all business owners, I have learned so much from my clients. First of all, it's just amazing to be involved in so many different industries. I mean, the arts is where I got my start, but now we work with a number of, online influencers, internet marketing companies. I mean, our span has really changed. So as a bookkeeper, I get to be behind the scenes and see the standard operating procedures for all these different industries that I would never see. But that client education, that particular lesson came to me from watching a client and how she dealt with her clients. And I still fangirl on her. She's an amazing, amazing woman. We've been working together for 11 years and she's such a rock star. So just pay attention to what your clients are like. If you have a fabulous client, you just love them. Why do you love them? What are they doing that makes you feel that way? It's such an opportunity for you to learn and grow. It's fabulous.
It really is an amazing benefit to being in this industry, is that you are getting a window into all sorts of different businesses, and they've invested often hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into building their business. And you get to watch them work with the stuff that worked out, right? And also see the things that didn't work out. So the amount of learning that bookkeepers get is remarkable. I think it's one of those untapped assets in the industry of the knowledge inside of bookkeepers' minds around the things that they've seen and what's going on. So the key word there is pay attention and take note and learn from that. I mean, recently for myself, just even dealing with other vendors and watching how I'm being treated and some of the I've worked some really cool vendors recently where just remarkable onboarding, remarkable steps that they're taking, these things. I'm like, wow, that's great. I want to do this with our customers. I want to have that piece there. And really it's like going and getting an education, but it's, it's part of the package. You're getting it for, the work that you're doing or whatever the case, whether you're buying something for somebody or you're offering a service to them, and then pass that on to others, right? I get the sense that this is something that you take on, which is you get things and you're given gifts, but you give those gifts away to your clients, to your staff, so that they can use them and have a better life or business as a result of it.
Yeah. And when you solve the bookkeeping pain point for somebody, for me, that's the winning ticket. When somebody's just like, and actually I have an employee right now who's leaving for some personal reasons, but the other day she told me, you really changed my life. And that was so touching to me. But, when your clients say that and you realize that, you have this power, like, okay, so bookkeeping is not sexy. It's not it's not like marketers who are like, I'm going to teach you how to make $1 million tomorrow, right? Like the language of bookkeeping, money, it's very charged. It can be very bland. But when you provide an outstanding bookkeeping experience and you help somebody change their financial lives, I mean, that's the money, no pun intended.
That is the money.
Yeah. And actually, just to go back to what you said about, recently you've been working with some vendors that you're really appreciative of the onboarding experience. Earlier today, we talked about how when employees come in, I ask them what their dream job is. Likewise, when I work with a vendor, whether it's, a web designer or a marketing person, or they're all the different people I've worked with over the years, once we get started, I actually ask them a similar question. And that question is how can I be your dream client? And it's shocking. Like people are like, I don't know, like how you could be my dream client, right? Because they're just so used to,
I get to have dreams too.
Well, yeah. So, but what happens is if you are somebody's dream client, they do their best work. And if I'm paying somebody, I want them to do their best work, right? I want them to bring their A game to the table. And 9 times out of 10, the only thing they want is clear and prompt communication, just like I want from my clients.
Right on. But It is a fantastic question and one that very rarely do we ever get asked, which again is another way to stand out. One of the things you said about bookkeeping and not having that pizzazz or sexy aspect to it, I always think of Warren Buffett. The way Warren Buffett invests is not sexy or has very little pizzazz, but he's a billionaire. Yeah, and that's unfortunate that the marketplace has that perception, but bookkeepers are the shepherd of the finances of a business. And often why I love working with this industry, often care more about the finances and money of a business than the actual business owners. And right? It's like, geez, I have somebody that I employ or that I hire as a vendor to take care of my finance. They actually care more about my money than I do. I mean, yeah. Where is that in the industry? Rare that exists in any business where they truly are incented in terms of making the client's needs first.
For sure.
Which is remarkable. And I'm excited about that piece. And I'm so happy and refreshed to hear from someone like yourself that's actually fulfilling on that and doing it. Not all do. And so the more that do it, the better it is for the marketplace, the better business owners understand the value of bookkeepers and actually can leverage the services offered by a great bookkeeper.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I counsel, and I'm sure you've heard this from so many different people in the industry or clients, is, I think I actually looked this up before we got on the phone today. The average net promoter score for an accounting firm is 24. We're 79, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So a lot of people
nobody's going to want to do a net promoting score. They're like, I don't want to get a 24.
Well, the average across SurveyMonkey, which is how we conducted it, is 26.
Wow.
So a lot of people have, and I'm not kidding when I say this.
It's a huge opportunity. I'm loving this.
Yeah. So, but a lot of people have financial trauma from working with a bad bookkeeper or a bad accountant, right?
Yes.
Whether the work was subpar whether the numbers were incorrect, whether, many accountants are short-staffed, communication can be an issue, financial planners who don't really know what they're doing. They could have the licensure, but still are not really talented. What I always tell my clients and my students is, you have to connect with the person that you're working with. If you are not confident in your bookkeeper, or you feel like your accountant is dismissive to you when you don't understand XYZ deduction, like, it's time to see your way out of that relationship. Because aside from your attorney and maybe your web developer, these are like some of the most important business relationships that you're going to have. And you need to feel good about them. And if you don't, you have to trust your gut and exit.
Remarkable.
Yeah, for sure.
Remarkable. And so true. This has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I'd love to just open up if there was any other pieces of advice you'd like to give our listener about building their Marmy, about building their business, about living the life of their dreams inside their bookkeeping business.
Yeah. I mean, one of my mentors said to me many years ago, you only fly as high as the flock you are with. So what that means is you really need to surround your peers. Your colleagues are the people that you need to lean on and learn from. They're the ones who are going to bring you up. So I think that, today it's any new entrepreneur is so lucky. You have all these different social media channels to connect. The trade industry show has exploded. I mean, when I started 25 years ago, there was none of that. I was completely alone. So really maximize those opportunities for sure. And I think branding is important. I mean, we have spent a lot of time cultivating the Good Sense brand, both from a customer service experience, but also like for our look and feel. And, now it's common to sort of see kitschy marketing for accounting firms, but, we were doing that way, way, way ahead many, many years ago. And it's helped us stand out. So
remarkable.
Yeah. I love talking shop. Such a pleasure, Michael.
It's I can't wait to have you back again. I know there'll be something new that we can talk about. You've given us so much of your knowledge and experience so generously, which is not surprising based on what you've built in your business. On behalf of our listeners, absolutely thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a delight.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.